Social assistance programs in Canada exist to help those who need it. Here in Ontario, however, some say a better job should be done. John Deacon is partner for Deacon Insurance Agencies Limited. He joins me now. Welcome, John.
Hey, Sheldon.
Well, let's start here. You believe current welfare rates in Canada are insufficient. Tell me why.
I do believe they're insufficient. And the reason I think they're insufficient is that the monetary assistance is anywhere from 40 to 60% below the poverty line, which means if you're living on social assistance, you're not living well. Either your diet is crap, or your housing is crap, or your hydro has been shut off, or the landlord is threatening you with eviction, even though you've had no running water for weeks and you can't get them to fix it. So rather than get people out of poverty, social assistance mires its recipients so deep in poverty that many just can't get out. And really, there is no reason in a country as wealthy as ours why we should be forcing poor people to live this way, but we are, and it is unjust. And we shouldn't, and should make those of us who are sleeping in warm beds tonight sleepless until something's done.
There was a rally held here in the city of Toronto earlier, not too long ago from today, outside the Legislative Assembly building, pushing for greater financial support for Ontario residents on ODSP. That's Ontario Disability Support Program, and OW Ontario Works, of course. Now, is this something we're going to see more of? People gathering, trying to make their voice heard, pushing back?
I sure hope so. We need some of those Old Testament prophets like Amos and Jeremiah, who would ream those of us in power for our indifference to the poor. The kind of John the Baptist types who insist that anyone that has two coats share with those who have none. You know, we who are in positions of power or privilege, we talk a good game, but we rarely get around to playing it. We keep pushing poor people to the bottom of our political agendas, and then when nothing's done, we say, well, we'll get around to it someday, and beggars can't be choosy. Let me give you an example. In 1989, the federal government passed a motion to eliminate child poverty by the year 2000. So now that it's 2017, how are we doing on that one? Toronto, which is Canada's richest city, generating 11% of our GDP, is the child poverty capital of Canada. There are over 144,000 children in Toronto living in poverty. That's 1 out of every 5 kids not getting enough to eat, who are living in precarious situations and who are just as likely to get in trouble with the law as get a decent job. So when people who live in poverty hear about poverty reduction plans or looking at social assistance rates or whatever, and then they're told it's held off for another year or another study has to be done, they're understandably pissed off.
You say there needs to be a living wage in this country. My final question to you, as an overhaul to social assistance in Canada, my question, why the living wage, why now?
Well, just because it's hard to live when you don't have a living wage, when you get a lot less than that. Social assistance has to move from being miserly and demeaning to being proactive and enabling, not just by increasing its payments by 20% or more, but by combining that with other poverty reduction initiatives like skills training and affordable housing and raising the minimum wage to a living wage. When the Ontario government in 1995 reduced social assistance rates by nearly 22%, it devastated Regent Park. It took millions out of the neighborhood and resulted in store closings, banks moving, and heightened social tensions. What the government didn't take into account is the reality that every dollar paid to those on social assistance goes immediately into the local neighborhood in which they live. When you're on social assistance, you don't have the luxury of spending money on Mediterranean cruises or offshore bank accounts or registered retirement savings plans. Every dollar you receive goes back into the local economy to the benefit of everyone who lives there. So if we really want to invest in our future, we can't do any better than to invest in social assistance recipients who will reinvest every dollar they receive into their local economies. And the returns are exponential, not just for those on social assistance, but for all of us. Everyone's better off when no one lives in poverty.
You know, John, you've raised a lot of key points here that I know a lot of our viewers are going to really think over, and hopefully action is taken. John Deacon, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for the call. Thanks, Sheldon.